Welcome, Virgo men, to your March 2017 Alchemy of Relating spread. This spread is just meant to give you a little bit of insight into the factors influencing the relationship this month. For those of you who don't know, Ching is based on an ancient Chinese divination method, which has been used to make sense of changes and to foretell what is coming. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and on to the reading. So the first card is the ground upon which you are standing in the relationship this month, Virgo. And here we have hexagram 64, which is complete before completion. So this card is saying that Virgo men, you might feel like you are just about to reach something, or you feel like your position is precarious because you haven't quite finished gotten to the finish line yet. And everything that might be risky to you feels even riskier. So if you're feeling rather tired within a relationship, or just tired generally, this card is telling you, this hexagram is saying that it's really important to continue on. So build up your energy reserves to continue on is what this card is saying. It's also saying that don't stop, just keep on going in any direction. Just like this person is crossing rather thin ice, they need to keep on going. And it's a reminder that even when you have setbacks, you can get over it by being positive and remembering how changing nature can be. It's also really important that even if you've lost track of the original goal that you've had in mind, not to get caught up in being indecisive. So also this card is saying that your goals can be reached by going in other ways. Make sure that you have your own personal impetus in mind, and also make sure that even though you're cautious, to not let it slow you down. Oops, we just lost our candle. All right, who wants to relight that? I guess I do. So the next card is the card of your partner, and again, these first two cards are just meant to give us a little bit of an idea of the foundations of the relationship, what is giving it strength, as well as what could be undermining it. So these cards are just the messages that we might get to see where we could do better with that. And we have for the partner, here we have hexagram 49, which is revolution. So revolution is a pretty strong card to get. It's saying that this is a time of breakthrough, and no matter what we are going to do, that breakthrough is gonna happen. So just like when we have a breakthrough in our own lives, we can really not want that to happen. This card is just saying that if you go with the flow and allow it to happen, there's going to be a lot of pleasure associated with those changes. So if you're looking around and everything seems like it's not opening the way for you, then it's probably a message that you need to consider how that revolution within yourself would benefit by you allowing it to happen. So we don't stay the same throughout our entire lives, even though we have an inner truth that that we could call our own. So remembering that going forward and allowing change to happen, and not saying no to it, and leaping into the future is what this card is asking for you. So with strength and with courage, we can become stronger than we ever thought. So if we think of the myth of the phoenix, the Greek myth of the phoenix that rose from the ashes, then learning to recreate ourselves and knowing that there is a future even after we think there might not be is the message of this card. Okay, so the third and fourth cards relate to the emotional climate that's in the relationship at the moment. And here we have hexagram 6, which is conflict. So for Virgo men, conflict could be arising in one or more of your relationships. And this hexagram is basically meant to remind us that when we get into a conflict with another person, that we can step away from it and recreate the solution by not banging each other, not sorry, not seeing your perspective on the matter as the only one. So this card, how would we resolve the two of these fighters? Well, we might say that first they need to go and take a step back and see where both their perspectives could be true in a sense, and they need to look for mutual ground. So it's basically saying one or more has to step away from the situation. And that begins with yourself. So if you're in any sort of deep conflict this month, it would be a good idea to see why it is that you have that and look at your own vulnerability and to see where that might be creating a kind of scab. And then that might help you to see the perspective of the other. So to end that. Okay, so this is the Virgo Partners card. We have hexagram 39, which is obstacles. This card shows a little boat in the middle of kind of a pretty rough storm. And this card is what it looks like. It's also a card that if you are pretending that everything is okay when it's really not, and you're keeping that within you, then you need to take a look at that and realize that for everybody, not everything is always okay. So whenever we think that we've we've made huge achievements, it happens that along with those achievements come new obstacles. And if there's been any kind of unfortunate sort of circumstances and you realize that you need to devote your entire being to calling some sort of clarity into the matter, it's going to be best for you if you just remain really calm. So your calmness in the situation is going to make sure that you don't become like one of those fish that gets trapped in a net and just by their constant movement they recreate and make worse the situation. So don't do that to yourself, Virgo partners. Also, it can feel like fate has it in for you with this card just because of the nature of the image. But again, by staying calm and really focusing on ways that you can strengthen your own self within it, you can regain your own center and inner balance. Taking responsibility as well is what this card calls for. Okay, so the next card is on the state of mind of the Virgo men this month with regards to the relationship. And we have hexagram 1, which is the creative. This is essentially the strongest kind of yang hexagram that exists because, first of all, because of the hand, which is naturally a pretty creative force. But this card, or this hexagram, is representing the unlimited potential that you have within all situations and within yourself. And this was in ancient China really regarded very highly. So if you have the ability to stay in tune and in touch and remain open And if you can forget what it is that you expected from situations, you might have a new ability to create something really great out of the situation. So while this card is necessarily yang, the opposite of it is yin. And if we remember that the two kind of need one another to exist, this hexagram is saying that this is the right time to create what it is that you want within the relationship. So that's a lot of control here in terms of what it is you want or what it is you are hoping for. So taking control is the message of this card. Okay, so again, this is the Virgo men's partner card, and we have hexagram 51, which is the arousing. And this is an interesting hexagram. Here we have an electrical storm that seems sudden. And it's funny, last night I had a dream of an electrical storm. So what is this telling us? This hexagram is saying that if we've been too caught up with our own issues and we haven't noticed that there's been a storm a-brewing, so to speak, this card can be a little bit of a reminder that if you are caught unawares by a situation, then you don't have to tackle the situation with fear. You should not be frightened by anything. The greatest enemy is fear. So you might have had some wake-up calls, and this is a time to remember that sometimes those wake-up calls are a light that's meant to shine what it is that's working for us or what's not. And you can learn so much about yourself when that happens. So sometimes we think of shocking experiences as pretty bad, but if you look at it as an opportunity for change and just generally guide the situation into what you want it, you can make something amazing. So if there's some sort of stability that's been lost, don't dismay, because you're going to have a new chance to kind of see your life in a more vulnerable perspective, especially if you remember that hexagram that came right before, which is the yang one. All right, so the final card is known as the insight card, and we have hexagram 13 here, which is companionship. So this card, or this hexagram, is just meant to give you kind of an overview of the entire reading and what you can do to tie everything together. And this card is really saying that the focus here now is on the human relationship and how each of you can increase your own potential within the relationship. So by working with one another to increase the connection that you have with one another and with other people is the card that this has to say, has the message to say to you. So by being respectful of one another and trusting each other is what this card is really asking for. And also that it's reminding us that by staying in touch with society's needs and finding out how our behavior affects everybody, it might take us out of the ego, or rather can help society, and that will in turn kind of water our own dreams. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and I look forward to your April reading.